Morning, hi guys, my name is Mina. Welcome to episode 71 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. Welcome. Like I said, my name is Mina and I'm coming to you from my home in Bahrain. And today is Wednesday, the 20th of July. Sorry, my computer is off to the side where my show notes and stuff are, so I will regularly be looking over to check things. So sorry about that. So welcome to all new and returning subscribers. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to check me out and join me for a bit of knitting chatter. Places you can find me. You can find me online as Mina86 on Ravelry. You can find me as Mina Phillip on Instagram. And you can find the podcast group as Knitting Expat Podcast on Ravelry in the Groups tab. And you can find all the show notes for this and all past episodes at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. And I think that pretty much covers everything. You can find links to everywhere that you can find me and stuff below this video on YouTube, in the episode thread, in the Ravelry group, and on the in the show notes. So wherever this video is embedded or that you can find this video, you will find links to all the other places that I've mentioned below that video or around that video. Sorry, my voice is a bit funny this morning. What was I going to say? Yeah, today I'm going to put this out there right now and just say I'm not feeling that great today. These last couple of days have just been a little bit insane and crazy busy. I've just been running around. I leave tonight for London for about 4.5 weeks, and I've just had so much to do. I've barely knit anything in the last couple of days. I've just been so busy. And then 2 days ago I woke up and part of my back had spasmed out, so I couldn't move on Monday. That was not fun. I mean, it wasn't anything serious. This happens to me every now and again, so I'm used to it happening. It's just this time was incredibly bad timing just because I had so much to do. I went and got my nails done, which I never do. I can't even remember the last time I had my nails done, and I'm still getting used to the idea of having blue nails, but I'll talk more about that later, about why I went with blue and all. Anyway, I've got my fingernails and my toenails done, and it was just, that was an interesting experience. I don't get my nails done very often, and there's a very specific reason why. Again, I won't bore you about that now. But all that to say, I don't think this is going to be a particularly long episode. There are a few segments where I just have zero content this week, so those are going to be non-existent. And so I have a feeling that this is going to be quite a quick episode. Having said that, I do think the latter half of the episode is going to be a lot more chatty than usual. Like, I have a lot more to talk about in the Middle East live segment, and I have a question. One of the questions I'm answering this week has quite a chatty answer. So if you are interested in that stuff, then great. Then you'll have more of a chatty segment at the end of the video. But I think the knitting content stuff is going to be quite short, and you'll see why in a second. But first up, coupon codes. So we have all the same coupon codes as we had last week. I think one of them is expired, but otherwise all the others are exactly the same. And we have two new coupon codes. One is from Katerina, and she has the Liebes yarn shop, and she's based out of Germany. And that's on Etsy. And the coupon code expat10, all capitals, will get you 10% off your order until the 30th of September. Bit tongue-tied this morning. And like I said, I will have that shop linked in the show notes and in the episode thread, so you can find that nice and easily. And then the second coupon code is from Charon, and he has a new scrap blanket pattern that's out at the moment called the Seashells Scrap Blanket, and it's a really interesting design, and he sent me a copy of it as well. And I was reading through the pattern, and it's really interesting construction, interesting idea. There's a bit of prep work that goes into preparing your scraps for the blanket, but I think if you're willing to put the time in, it's a beautiful design, and definitely something that I would be interested in trying out at some point. So if you're interested, he's given us a coupon code expat20, again all capitals, and that gives you 20% off on the pattern on the pattern purchase until the 31st of August. So again, I will have that linked in the show notes and in the episode thread for you. So you can find those and all the other coupon codes from the previous weeks that I've been mentioning in the episode thread and in the chatter thread. Like I said, I'm not going to mention all the coupon codes every single week just because it'll take forever, but Hugo's coming by to say hi. Come on, buddy. Come on. It will take forever, but they are always in the show notes and in the episode thread, so if you are interested and you want to see them, you most certainly can. And here we go. I have a slightly different camera setup today because I've already packed my tripod for the trip, so I'm not sure how much Hugo you're going to see, but he's here. Yo. I'm going to miss this little fluffy guy. Yeah. Don't worry, we've got a really good pet sitter who looks after our boys when we travel, and I think she's more paranoid about their well-being than we are, so there's absolutely zero problems in that regard, and she's always very responsive, and she sends us loads of messages all the time with picture updates and stuff like that, so which is nice. And yeah, okay, you're just going to settle down on my lap there. That's very nice of you. Right, okay, so we have a few finished objects this week. One I can't show you, but I actually have 5 finished objects this week. Quite a lot. Considering how busy I was, I'm surprised I've managed to finish everything. And when I say everything, I mean I literally have nothing left on my needles. I finished everything. The first thing I finished was the shawl I was designing for the post-stitch collaboration, which I can't show you for, I hope, obvious reasons I've mentioned before. So that was out of the yarns of Richard de Vries that I was using. Then the second finished object, come on, can you just settle down? Okay, good boy. The second finished object is my second sugar plum shawl that I was knitting for a friend of mine, and I knit the smallest size. That's according to what's in the pattern. As it happens, I did have enough yarn left over. I could have done an additional lace repeat, but I wanted to see how big the small size was going to come out according to the instructions that I had in the pattern, because the small size that I included in the pattern previously was actually different in terms of repeats and stuff than what's in there now. So some of my testers who were testing out the small size, and the small size was supposed to be a size that you could do out of just a single skein of yarn, but a lot of my testers have found that one skein wasn't enough. So I realized my maths must have been off on the number of repeats for each section that I was including, so I reduced that, and I only had one skein of this yarn anyway, which is by the Wool Barn, and it is Grape Twist. It's on her luxury 4-ply base, which is 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon, and it's a beautiful soft, I'll show it up close in a second, sort of pinks and greys speckled throughout. And anyway, so because I changed the sizing, I wanted to see how big this was going to come out, and I wanted to see if my maths was right in the pattern in terms of sizing. But it actually seems to have turned out, the one that I've done has actually turned out a little bit bigger than the size that I have in the pattern. But I do block my shawls a lot more aggressively than the majority of people. I do that. So but I was really happy with it, and I got this size out of 90 grams from a 400 yard skein. So definitely the small size should be manageable for most people from a single skein of yarn, 400 yards or more. And so I'll just show you up close. Yep, and you can see the, and get the colours to show up. It's just really lovely, subtle. It's kind of like a base of a sort of pale pink, and then it has these pops of darker pinks and greys, which I think my friend's gonna love. So I'm really happy I got this finished and blocked in time to take back with me as well. Hugo, you are not allowed to catch the ends on that one. Then the next finished object I have is one that I posted a couple of pictures of on Instagram as I was knitting it, and this is a pair of design socks for my Beyond Vanilla Part 2, and there are 2 here. You guys probably know that because I knit my socks 2 at a time anyway. But this has a simple and really fun texture pattern which really highlights and plays well with self-striping yarn. I did a version on just variegated yarn, and this is the version that I've done on self-striping, and the pattern will include instructions on how to do it slightly differently on the self-striping yarn versus just on regular sock yarn if it's not self-striping. And it's just really fun, and I love how it's turned out. It is And I just love this yarn. This yarn is amazing. This is Turtle Pearl Yarns, striped turtle toes. This is the regular, it's non-glitter, and it's in the colorway. So it's a rainbow, but it kind of goes, it's not just a constant repeat. It kind of, what's the word? It's sort of like concertinas, backs up and down through the colors. There are 7 colors, and I used the Cascade Heritage sock yarn for the contrast cuffs, heels and toes, because I thought it was quite a close match for the purple in the yarn. When I washed these, I will say that there was quite a bit of purple in the water, but I do feel like that's probably more from the Cascade than the actual Turtle Pearl yarn. I don't know if you can see that, but Hugo's just licking my arm. So yeah, I really love how these knit up. And so like I said, this is another pair of design socks. So that would be pair number 7 in the set for the second batch of 4 Beyond Vanilla patterns. And then the next pair of socks, which I also finished, and I also shared a couple of pictures of this in progress, and I only just finished these last night and got them blocked, and they're dry this morning, which is great. And this is, oh sorry, I should have mentioned these were knit on 2.25mm needles. And this is going to be pair number 6 in the set. For the design socks, this is also part of the Beyond Vanilla socks collection, and this again has a really fun texture pattern. They all do, and this actual pattern is going to have 2 versions. There's the stacked version, which is this one, and so as you can see the texture is like stacked, and then the alternative version is an alternating staggered version where the texture is staggered throughout the leg, so it gives a slightly different effect. So I really love how this has turned out. I actually really like the stacked effect, the way this knit up. And this was knit up on 2.5mm needles. This yarn is the Glitz Base by Hue Loco, and it's in the radioactive colorway. And seriously, this yarn could just glow in the dark. It is so bright. It's this sort of like neon chartreusey green color, yellow green color, and it would not have ever been a color I would have picked up for myself, but this was one of the skeins that Nicole sent me when she sent me yarn for the Budding Bluebell shawl. She sent me a couple of extra skeins to play with, and actually once I saw it and as I started knitting with it, I really fell in love with it. So thank you, Nicole, for pushing me outside my comfort zone a little bit there. But yeah, and I really like how the pattern pops on this yarn as well. What else was I going to say? Yeah, I knit these on 2.5mm needles, but having said that, this particular yarn is probably a little bit too thin to knit on 2.5mm for me, but because of the texture pattern, I was worried about the fabric being a bit too tight, but it's actually worked out perfectly. So I just think next time if I was knitting this and I wanted to use 2.5s, I'd pick a yarn that was slightly plumper, because from my experience and from what I've heard most other podcasters say, is that yarns that have stellina in them tend to be finer than non-stellina sock yarns, just as a general thing. But like I said, really enjoy it. The stellina isn't too obtrusive, like it's not really all that obvious at all, which is kind of like how I like it. I don't want it to be like super glittery when I'm wearing socks. But as I say that, sorry, it's off screen there. As I say that, these aren't even going to be for me. I know who these are for, but they're not going to be getting them anytime soon. Probably later this year. So I'm not going to say who they're for. Alright, so that's it for the socks. I do have one last finished object to share with you. And this was by Perry's request, actually. He hardly ever asks me to knit him anything. But recently he got a little external speaker, kind of like the one that I got. And his is also from Bose, and he had some credit card points to use to buy something, and so he got this one, which is really nice. It's really sleek. It's quite heavy, but it is very portable. The only issue is it's all metal, and it didn't come with a case, so he didn't want it to get scratched up. So he asked me if I would make a case for it. So that's what I did. I made a little sort of sock case thing for it. And so this is out of Malabrigo worsted in the Wales Road colorway. and I only used about 30-ish grams, to be honest. It's really did not take that much on. I used 4mm needles, and I just did a 1x1 sort of garter rib. I sort of just knit a square at the bottom or a rectangle, and I picked up stitches around the edge and I knit up as a tube. Got to the top, I did some decreases on the side, and then bound off all the edges, knit the flap, then tacked down a few stitches on either side to sort of make this a bit more so it wasn't so open. And then you just pop the bad boy in. And it's a nice snug fit, so even if you don't tuck the flap in and you turn this upside down, the speaker's not going anywhere. Like it's not gonna come pop out. Yeah, and then I was gonna put a snap on or a button or something, but he preferred it just like this, and then you just tuck the flap in to the front. There you go. He just wants something to protect it when he puts it in his luggage or in his bag or something. So that was that. That took me all of 2 hours to whip up, so it was really quite quick. And I sort of just made it up as I went along. There was absolutely no pattern at all. I just had the speaker with me and I was knitting and measuring against the speaker as I went. And yeah, that's that. So that's it for the knitting content. I have absolutely no works in progress. Like I mentioned, I finished these late last night, and they were the only things on my needles since I finished this, and I did this on Sunday. So for the last two days, this is all I've been working on. It is, like I said, I've not had much knitting time at all. I had wanted to cast on something new, I just hadn't had the energy to do it. And like I said, I finished this at like 11:30 p.m. last night before going to bed. So no works in progress. I had hoped to have had a pinwheel blanket done this week, just didn't happen. I've already packed everything that I'm taking with me projects wise. I've kept a couple of projects out so I can cast on something new before I head to the airport tonight, but honestly I didn't want to just cast something on for the sake of it this morning. So yeah, that's all I have to be honest with you, for you guys this week in terms of knitting. So nice and short on the knitting front. Travel knitting, I said last week I was going to film a separate segment, and I have, and I'm going to probably upload that as a separate video on the channel, and that will probably come in the next couple of days. It probably won't upload today, but in the next couple of days I'll probably upload that for you guys. It'll be quite a short one. I don't think it'll be more than like 10 minutes or anything like that. Moving on to acquisitions. There are no physical acquisitions to show you this week. Nothing came in the mail, but I did receive a pattern gift, and that was the Riley Rose shawl, and that was sent to me by the lovely Boston Jen, who has the Downseller Studio podcast, and she sent me a copy of her pattern and offered one up as a giveaway. So thank you so much, Jen. That's really appreciated. And I think I'm going to use the giveaway copy for the Sugar Plum Shawl Knit Along, since it's a shawl knit along and it seems appropriate to have a shawl prize. But on the mail front, like I said, I'm leaving today, so I'm not going to get any mail until I get back, or at least until Perry gets back, which is going to be around the middle of August. So if you have sent me something and you haven't told me that you've sent it. The thing is, I get a few messages every now and again from people asking to send me something, but then they never, which is fine. I always appreciate it if someone wants to send me something. But then I always try to remember to ask people to let me know when they've sent it. So if someone doesn't let me know that they've actually sent the package that they said they're going to send, I don't know when it's coming. Again, that's fine. It's not a problem. If I'm here, I'll just get it whenever it shows up. But sometimes people just don't end up sending a package, and that again is totally fine. But it would help me out a lot to know what I'm expecting if you could let me know when you have sent the package. So if you have sent me something and you haven't let me know, or I'm not aware of it, or we haven't spoken about it recently, or I haven't told you that it's arrived, then please let me know, just so I know what to expect over the summer months whilst I'm away. I'm aware of 3 packages for sure that I'm definitely waiting for, because I've been in touch with the people who have sent them and they've said they're on their way. Two of them I'm actually really surprised they haven't shown up already, but the third one was sent relatively recently, so I wasn't expecting that to show up before I left. But as for anything else, I'm not entirely sure what is heading my way and what isn't. So if you have sent me something, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know, so I can keep a list and then let Perry know so he can keep an eye out for stuff when he gets back as well. I hope that made sense. In terms of knit-alongs and giveaways, I don't have any new prizes to announce this week. All the other prizes have been announced and they've either been shipped out, or people have said they don't mind me waiting until I get to the UK to post them out, so that's great. So all those packages are packed up and they're in my suitcase down there. You see the blue thing? That's my suitcase. They're all packaged up and ready to go. So we have the sweater knit-along that is running from now until the end of the year, and there's a chatter and finished objects thread, and all the rules and information are in there for you guys. The next prize drawing for that will be at the end of September, and I already have part of the prize set aside for that one. Then we have the Summer Blanket Blitz knit-along going on at the moment, so that's co-hosted with myself and Shannon from the Etc. podcast. We both have chatter threads in our groups where you can pop along and chatter away, and also you can enter on Instagram by using the Summer Blanket Blitz hashtag, and it has to have the word summer in it. I've seen a few people just using Blanket Blitz KAL or Blanket Blitz, and that doesn't enter you. It's Summer Blanket Blitz is the hashtag, and that's also in the episode thread, in the chatter threads in our groups. I'm sorry, Hugo's going off for a wander. Okay. So yeah, and we have some prizes already been donated, so a couple of skeins of handspun, and I've included photos of that in the chatter thread in my group, so you can check that out. And I also have 2 sets of mini skeins that I've set aside. I will probably do at least 1 more set of mini skeins, if not 2 more, to give away as well as prizes. So make sure you check out those threads for that. And if you're on the market for mini skeins and you want to swap with people, I have set up a self-managed mini skein swap thread in the group, and I'm just going to leave that running for however long, probably till the end of the year or something. I'm sorry for the shaking. I have you balanced on a box, and Hugo has now decided this box is something he wants to eat. So he's trying to chew on the box as I'm trying to record, which is very handy. Thank you, Hugo. I really appreciate it. Yes, I'm sure everyone else appreciates all the shaking. He's like, screw you. Hey? Okay, don't go there. Come back and say hi. And the third knit-along we currently have running is the Sugar Plum Cowl, or the Sugar Plum Shawl that I designed, which came out at the beginning of July. And he's going to bite me in a second because he doesn't like the fact that I'm holding him. Okay. So what was I saying? Yes, so that's running until the end of August. There is a chatter and finished objects thread, and I've really been enjoying seeing everyone's progress and yarn choices and everything they've been working on. Some people are working on their second shawl now, which is great. And we have some prizes for that already, which I've gone over in the past. I've got a couple of packages put together, and now we have the Riley Rose shawl pattern as well as a prize. And I know someone has sent me some yarn to use for prizes, so probably one of those will be a prize as well for this knit along, depending on how many entries we get. I think I'm going to keep it as the 2 prize packages for now, and if we get over a certain number of entries, then I'll do a 3rd prize as well. So that's all we have running at the moment for knit alongs, just 3, which seems like a low amount compared to what we've been doing recently. But yeah, so I'm going to take a quick break here, and I will come back and we will do some Q&A. Alright, so back again, and with questions from viewers. So the first, and I'm saying this section is going to be quite chatty because the first question is has quite a chatty response. So the first question comes from Reese3750, and they haven't put a name on their Ravelry page, but their question is, or they say, I am a new viewer as of a few months ago. I have been catching up on some of your older podcasts. Several times you have mentioned your broken leg wrists that have happened in the past and have said there were interesting stories you would have to tell sometime, but I've not seen that you have shared them yet. I'm just curious if you would share. Yeah, sure enough, I will. I guess I forgot I'd mentioned that. But so going chronologically, the first time I broke my wrist was my left wrist, and it wasn't really my wrist, it was actually a bone in my thumb, one of the small sort of connecting bones I'd fractured. I fell badly ice skating and I fractured that bone, so that was the first broken bone. The second time, I'm not even sure if I actually technically broke anything the second time around. They couldn't find anything definitive on the x-rays, but it was a similar sort of fracture or in one of the small bones, and they think it was more like a stress fracture because sorry, my phone is buzzing, 1 second. Okay, sorry, there was someone coming by to pick something up and that was what the phone call was. Anyway, so as I was saying, the second time, I don't think it was an actual broken bones as such. I think it was a stress fracture. I'm not even sure how it happened exactly. Yeah, I think I fell over, and it was my right hand, it was my right wrist, and it was right around the times when I had exams. I think I must have fallen, we'd gone away for a weekend, I think, and visiting friends and stuff, and me and my brother playing around with the kids, and I think I must have fallen over. I think I was about 15 or something at the time, and I think I think it was like a stress fracture, because I just thought I'd sprained my wrist, I think, and then I was revising and writing a lot and stuff, so, but it just got worse and worse, the pain got worse, and I remember going to the doctor and thinking, I can't have broken it, like it would have been excruciating if I'd broken anything, so this must just be like a really bad sprain. But then my GP said, oh, you might have broken it, and I was like, or like fractured it. I was just like, really? So they sent me to the hospital, got an x-ray done. Like I said, they couldn't find anything definitive, but as a precaution they put my arm in plaster anyway for a few weeks, which made taking exams interesting. Thankfully they weren't important ones, they were mock exams and end of year exams, so I managed to make that work. But I also, you know, that time meant I ended up learning how to write with my left hand, so I am somewhat ambidextrous, not traditionally, not properly ambidextrous, but I can write legible handwriting with my left hand now. I'm a bit out of practice at the moment, but I can do it. It looks like a child's handwriting, but it's legible, which is great and handy. Then the third time, which was probably the most dramatic of all my broken bone situations, and also the most ridiculous situation as well, was, I think, how old was I? I was still in high school. Must have only been a year or two after the last one, so I must have been like 16. I must have been 16, because then I changed schools. We were warming up for our PE lesson. We were getting ready to play netball, and which is similar to basketball. If you're in the US, you might not know what netball is. We were warming up, and we had to basically do little sprints. So you had to run to a line, touch the line, and then we had to run backwards back to where we started. Don't ask me why. Anyway, as I was running backwards, and we were on like tarmacked netball courts, and as I was running backwards, I slipped on a twig. I'm not even kidding, a twig. I slipped, I fell, and I hit the floor, you know, with my hand flat against the floor. And anyway, I was in a lot of pain, and they sent me to the nurse's room. And looking back on it now, I think the way they handled it was probably not entirely right. They probably wouldn't be allowed to do this sort of thing now, but they made me sign a piece of paper to say it wasn't the school's fault before my parents showed up, before anyone showed up. And to be honest, I don't really think it was the school's fault. There was just a twig on the floor outside. I mean, really, it's not anyone's fault. It was just an accident. But even so, I still think they probably should have waited until a parent showed up before making me sign that paper. All that aside, I spent the day at the nurse's room. There was no obvious swelling when you looked at my wrist. There was no obvious swelling at all, but my hand just hurt a lot, so I had an ice pack on my wrist, and I was just holding my wrist like this. Anyway, eventually later in the afternoon, at some point, I think it was my mum and my dad, I can't actually remember who it was, but probably my dad, because he worked nearer to my school. He came by and picked me up and took me to the hospital. Went to an emergency room, and the first thing the nurse did, the admin nurse, when they check you before you get to see a doctor, first thing she did was she actually turned my hand over, and then that's where all the swelling was, on the bottom, which I'd been like holding in my wrist, in my hand the whole time with an ice pack. So you couldn't see any swelling from the top, but underneath was where all the swelling was. And she was just like, yeah, okay, get you an x-ray. And there was like a very clean fracture line across my humerus, I think it is. I can't remember, one of the two main bones in the arm. I had a clean fracture across, and anyway, so she just put my hand in plaster. The specialist wasn't in that day, so she said, you need to make an appointment to come back and see the specialist like in a couple of days. So I went back with my dad to see the specialist, and the first thing he said to me was, well, they set the cast wrong when you first went into the emergency. They just gave you an emergency plaster cast. They just gave you the standard one they give everyone, but because of, and he explained it all, because of the way the fracture was, and he said it's fine, your hand can heal in the straight position, but you'd be at higher risk of arthritis later on in life because the bones won't heal exactly straight. So what they had to do was do that. Basically, my hand needed to be set in this position for the bone to be perfectly aligned to heal correctly. But to do that, to move my hand from this position to that position, I had to have a general anaesthetic. They had to put me under completely to reset the cast, because they said it would have been too painful to do it otherwise, which I'm not entirely sure if that's true. Maybe because it was because of my age, but I don't really know. They made me reset the... Anyway, so I had that done. Had to go into hospital for a day and all of that. It wasn't a big deal in the end, like it was fine, but it was the first time I ever had, it's the only time I've ever had a general anaesthetic, and it was the first time that I remember having to go into hospital for something like that. My mum tells me there was one time when I was like 3 that I ended up in hospital for something, but it's the only time I really remember for myself. So that was interesting. And then I had a big gap where I didn't break any bones, and which was great. And up until about just over 2 years ago, it was at Christmas time, 2014? 2014? 13. Jeez, I can't even remember now. I think it was 2013 when we went to Iceland for the first time. I think that's right. This is terrible that I can't even remember. It was just over 2 years ago. 2014, it is 2014. Christmas 2000, just before Christmas 2014, Perry and I went to Iceland for the first time. And we had a great week, we had an amazing time, and it was our last full day in Iceland, and we were leaving the next day in the afternoon. So we were staying at this sort of bed and breakfast place out in the countryside, along the south coast, and the guy who ran the place also sort of did day tours and stuff, so he was taking us on a day trip out around the south coast to see some of the places, and one of the last-ish stops of our day was the Black Sand Beach at Vic, which is a beautiful place, but it was a very, very stormy day. Like the day in general was very, it was like snowing, it was really insanely windy, and it was just really rough conditions. So we were down on the beach, and the beach is it's a really wide beach. So if the tide's out, there's a lot, you know, the water is quite far away. And we were taking pictures and just having fun and looking around and stuff. And there were loads of other people on the beach as well, like we weren't the only ones there. And there were a couple of people that got splashed by waves, and it was all a bit of fun. But like I said, it was very stormy and the waves were pretty strong. And I had my SLR camera, which is like my big fat camera with the strap, and I always wear the strap across crossbody. It's just how I've always worn it. And so I'm taking my pictures, and then we kind of get to the end of our time there, and we're like, okay, we're about ready to go now. And I'm taking the last couple of pictures, and as I take the last picture, I'm like, oh crap, like that wave is coming in a lot stronger than all the others. Like we kept our distance from the water, but at the same time, you could just tell that this wave was different from the rest. Like it was coming in a lot stronger than all the others. And so I turned and started running. And it's really hard to run. And when you're wearing hiking boots on a sandy beach, and I'm also wearing a thermal onesie. I am not even joking, I am wearing a thermal onesie. I look like a giant Teletubby. So I turn and I run. I just run as fast as I can in the clunky outfit that I'm wearing. And Perry was a few feet above me on the beach, and as he saw me running, he turned and started running as well. And I just knew we weren't going to get away from the wave in time. Anyway, so the wave came up from behind us and caught us both out. We both ended up wet. But by the time it got halfway up the back of my legs and basically got up to my knees, the force of the weight of water just pushed me over. I lost my balance and I fell over. So I fell forward. Then as the wave receded, it pulled me back with it. Like, it was really strong. Pulled me back with it, and in the process of pulling me back, it pulled me back over my leg really badly, and I felt something go, and I just basically started screaming at that point. It was just like, it was incoherent. I was not coherent at all. I was just screaming, and Perry turns around, and the only other thing I'm doing other than screaming is holding my camera out of the water so my camera doesn't get damaged or wet, because that priorities. So Perry's not entirely sure what's happened at this point. All he sees is me holding my camera up, so his instinct is to grab the camera. So he grabs the camera, and as the wave's still receding, it's pulling me along with it. So Perry's pulling me out of the water at the same time, which at the time I didn't realize how serious the situation was, but if he hadn't done that, there's a very good chance that wave probably would have pulled me out into the water with it. Anyway, so I'm just like sitting there on the beach, soaked from the waist down, just screaming bloody murder at that point. And our guide who was with us, he was at a different side of the beach. But basically the whole beach heard me screaming. He came running over, and Perry even said at first he thought I was laughing, because he just thought I found it really funny that I'd fallen into the water and gotten wet, which probably would have been the case had I not broken my leg, which I didn't know was broken at the time. But it felt like my ankle. It very much felt like my ankle, and I was just screaming, my ankle, like it really hurts. And yeah, so it was it was not fun. And I managed to hobble up the beach a bit with Perry and our guide's help. And I sat on a rock, and I was like, there's no way I'm making it back to the car. I cannot hop back to the car, like it's too painful. So our guide managed to go get his car and back it up onto the beach. And there was no way I was going to make that walk from the beach to the car park. It was like 500 meters or something. It might have even been less than that, but whatever it was too much. So I managed to back the car up, and I got out of the onesie. I was wearing sort of like thermal underwear and leggings and stuff, so they wrapped me in a sleeping bag and sort of bundled me into the car. And just because of the way the car was, there was no way for me to put my leg up, so I had to sit there with my leg down, and it just hurt so much. And the only thing and it took us, because the road conditions, the weather conditions were so bad, the roads were like thick with ice and everything. It took us 3 hours to get to the nearest hospital. I mean, we couldn't even get to Reykjavik, which is where our guide wanted to take me first. But the roads to Reykjavik were closed because there's like a mountain road you have to cross, and that was closed because of the bad weather. So we had to go to a smaller sort of village hospital, I guess. And so that's where we ended up. But like I said, it took us like 3.5 hours to get there. It was excruciating. And basically the whole time I just kept trying not to fall asleep, because that's not a good sign generally. And the whole time I didn't think it was broken. I thought maybe I damaged a ligament or something. Because like I said, I was adamant it was my ankle. I was pretty sure it was my ankle, and I could wiggle my toes. So I was like, well, if I can move my toes, then I probably haven't broken anything in my ankle, blah 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 blah. Which is like, I know nothing about like in terms of what that sort of stuff means, but in my head I was like, if I can wiggle my toes, I haven't broken anything. That was my logic at the time, which I know is wrong, but even so. Got to the hospital. I was trying to make light of the situation, and I was like, oh well, you know, at least it's the end of our trip. We're going home tomorrow anyway. It's not like it happened on day one. Which is true. We still had an amazing time. I mean, so much so that we went back last year. But Anyway, got an x-ray done. I had to wait a while because the radiologist had gone home for the day, and she came in and did the x-ray. And anyway, it turned out I had broken my fibula. So it's the smaller of the two bones in your leg, the main two bones in your leg. And it's a very common football injury or soccer injury when players get tackled and they get kicked in the shin just above the ankle. It's a very common break and injury for football players, soccer players. So what actually happened was it was broken or fractured about 2 inches above my ankle, or 2 or 3 inches above my ankle, so which is why it felt like my ankle, because the pain was just, I couldn't tell where the pain was coming from. Anyway, so the doctor said to me, look, the specialist is in surgery at the moment, so he can't come and view the x-rays, but there's a good chance you'll need surgery to set the break and you know, to fix it. And obviously, so we explained, you know, we're going home and we live in Dubai. We lived in Dubai at the time. We live in Dubai, blah, blah, blah. I can't, you know, we can't stay here, sort of thing. We can't stay. So what he did was, and they were really good about it. They gave me copies of my x-rays and all the information, and they put my leg in what they call a back slab plaster. So it's only hard plaster on the back of the leg and under the foot, but then they just wrap it with bandages, which allows your leg to expand and contract with the change in air pressure when you fly. So it basically just meant that I could travel with it. Now, what makes this even more complicated is my parents were in Iran at the time. They were visiting family, and then from Iran they were coming to Dubai for Christmas. So about 2 or 3 days after we were getting back to Dubai, my family were coming over from Iran to spend Christmas with us in Dubai. So we had a one-night layover in London on our way back to Dubai. So we were going to be staying with my aunt and uncle. So I called my aunt to let her know I'd broken my leg and I wasn't going to be able to make it up the stairs, so she could make up the sofa bed for me and things like that. And then I realized I probably ought to tell my family that something's happened, so they're not like freaked out by it. So I called my dad, and they were in the south of Iran with my dad's family. And it was quite funny because I think it was definitely a bad connection, because when I told my dad I broke my leg, his first reaction was, "That's great, that's lovely." I'm like, Did you hear what I said? He was like, honestly, no, I didn't hear you. So I said it again, and he had a much more, oh my God, reaction, which was more what I'd been expecting the first time around. But anyway, they decided, between my dad and my brother, they decided not to tell my mum. Because she just panicked, honestly. There's nothing she could do about it. I was going back to Dubai. There was absolutely nothing she could do about it. All it would have done was just ruin the last couple of days of her trip. So we got back to Dubai. I'd already made an appointment to see a doctor the next morning, but by the time we got home, it was like middle of the night, and I was just in excruciating pain. I couldn't sleep, and so Perry drove me to hospital at like 2:30 in the morning, and eventually got checked out by a doctor, and they admitted me and they checked me in, and they were like, yeah, you need to have surgery. So by the time they checked me into, gave me a room and everything, it was like 5:30 in the morning. Perry was absolutely knackered. He slept for a couple of hours on the sofa, and then he went home, fed the boys, and grabbed a few things and came back. And anyway, so I had surgery that afternoon, and they didn't put me under general anesthetic. They gave me, I had an epidural, so I had a spinal thing, spinal block, I think is what it's called. Oh my God, that is like the most painful thing ever. I had no idea it was so painful to have a spinal block epidural thing. And I'm just laying there going, how on earth do pregnant people know when to push when they have this? Because you literally cannot feel anything. I mean, you can feel pressure, but you can't feel anything. It feels like someone has like put an elephant on your lower half and you can't move anything, can't feel anything. It just feels like a lot of pressure on your legs. So I was basically numb from the waist down. And they asked me if I wanted to be sedated, so I wouldn't remember anything. I was like, but no, it's fine. Like, I don't want to be sedated. But she'd already started giving me some of the sedation, so it was just like, for the first half of the surgery, I was sort of in and out of consciousness. And then I was awake for the rest of it. So it was very interesting being able to chat to your surgeon whilst he's operating on you. But it all went really well. They even asked what music I wanted to have on in the operating theatre. And they had the portable x-ray machine, so they could like check the progress, and I could see that. I mean, they had the screen up, so I couldn't actually see what they were doing, but I could see the x-ray machine. And I ended up having a metal plate put in to join the bones and 5 screws in my leg, which are still there. I do need to get them taken out at some point. They do cause me a bit of pain every now and again. If I walk too much, the area around my leg there hurts a little bit. But I think that's just because that's irritating the muscles. But otherwise, it's all fine. It all healed up pretty quickly. But it was a pretty dramatic end to a holiday, to be honest. But that's the last broken bone, and hopefully the last one for a long time. I am a relatively accident-prone person. I have sprained my ankles numerous times over the years. But yeah, so that's that. I did warn you this was going to be a very chatty answer. It's been about 20 minutes, so I'm sorry about that. And I think with that, I'm probably going to skip the next few questions. And there's 2 more questions which popped up, which I think I'll just answer next week. Right. Going back to my show notes, I don't have a question for you guys this week. I couldn't think of anything. I've just been so busy getting stuff done. But in terms of Bahrain Middle East life, I have a couple of things I want to talk about. First up, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but our cooker, our hob and oven is run on gas, and it's not a gas. There's no gas main line. Everything else in the house is run on electric. So our water heaters are electric, our AC obviously is electric, so it's all electric in the house. The only thing that's not electric is the cooker, so the stove and the oven, and so it runs on gas. And because there are no sort of gas main lines in Bahrain, or the Middle East in general doesn't have a lot of sort of like, with Dubai was the same. If you had a gas cooker, you used gas cylinders. So we have gas cylinders for our cooker, and it just sits outside in our back garden area. There's like a little cabinet for it where it goes, and whenever it runs out, you call up the gas company and they bring a new cylinder and replace it. But so we ran out of gas over the weekend, which was not enjoyable. Perry was halfway through cooking dinner, so that wasn't great. But we just haven't had time to call and get a new one in, because we've just been out of the house all the time, or I've not been around long enough to sit around and wait for them to come and deliver it. But so Perry's gonna have to deal with that when we get back. The last few days we've been making do with what we can cook on. We've got a George Foreman grill and a microwave, so or takeout. That's really been our options at the moment. But it's been alright for a few days. It's not the end of the world. And then but it was surprising. I've been waiting for the gas to run out for a while now, because the last time I replaced it was the beginning of July last year. So I don't know what that says about how much we actually used the cooker, but it lasted a very long time, and I was surprised. But yeah, so that's that. For those of you who didn't know, if you have a gas cooker, you have to use gas cylinders, which are kind of like the ones that you use if you have a gas barbecue. Fun fact for you there. The other thing I wanted to talk about was we spent the day in Saudi Arabia on Sunday. I had to go with Perry to Saudi Arabia to renew our exit visas, and so yeah, so I had to go with him for the day. And I've had to do this before. I did this previously in February, and I believe I talked about it on the podcast then as well. So I just had to spend a day there, but because I don't, neither he nor I really want me to spend the whole day sat in his office, because that'd be boring for both of us, and I wouldn't be able to do much. So, and the people at the hotel, his company, their head office is next door to a hotel that the company also owns. So they were able to organise for me to just have access to one of the bedrooms for the day, just so I had somewhere to sit and like just, use my laptop and knit or whatever. Anyway, so I was in the room and Perry was at work, and we were planning on going for lunch together. One of his co-workers had invited both of us out for lunch that day. So I was like, okay, that's great. And then I got a call at like 10:30 from one of the ladies who works in his office, and she sort of called me in the hotel and was like, so by the way, we've organised like a surprise party for Perry today, and I was wondering if you wanted to come. I was like, yeah, of course I'll come. That sounds great. So she came and picked me up, and we went over, and actually, you know what, I vlogged this, so I'm going to pop the vlog in here for you guys, where I sort of talk about it a little bit. I didn't actually vlog or film anything from the actual party, because I didn't think that would be very, I don't know, I was a little bit cautious about that because of there were going to be ladies there and guys, and it just didn't seem right. But anyway, I'm going to put the vlog in here, and I also took some footage of us as we were driving to Saudi Arabia as well in the morning, so I will pop all of that in this segment, and I will come join you on the other side. So I'm actually in Saudi Arabia today. Had to come over to sort out some stuff, but mainly just get my visa renewed. So yeah, our visas, well, it's a bit of a long story, but basically once you get a Saudi Arabian residency permit, which is what Perry and I both have, we then need to get a exit visa, essentially, visa that lets you leave the country. So since we live in Bahrain, we need those, and yeah, so our visas run out at the end of July, and since we're traveling in a few days, we really needed to get that sorted. So today's Sunday, I should have mentioned, it's the start of the work week in the Middle East, and yeah, so I came to work with Perry today, and to get our visa. I have to physically be in the country to renew the exit visas, so that's what I'm here for. As you can tell, I'm not in an office, I'm actually in a hotel room. The company that Perry works for owns a hotel, so, and it's next door to the office, so he was able to organise for them, and they all really like Perry, the guys who work here, so they gave me access to one of the hotel rooms so I could just like hang out here for the day, because I have nothing else to do, and hanging out in the office is going to be very boring. Anyway, so what I was trying to get to is one of the ladies from the office called me earlier in the hotel room and to let me know that they are planning a surprise party for Perry today. So like a surprise leaving party, because Wednesday's his last day, and they wanted to know if I wanted to go, and I was like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, I was supposed to just have lunch with Perry today, but a surprise party sounds much more fun. I'm not sure how fun he'll find it. He's not a big fan of surprise parties. But yeah, so I'm actually just getting ready. I've put on my abaya, which is just my, basically it's like a big black dressing gown. You can see it's like pretty big, but it's actually really comfy and really nice to wear actually in hot weather, because it's really light, it's very thin fabric, and it billows a lot, so it allows for a lot of air movement, which is good. I have the headscarf bit wrapped around my neck. I'm not actually wearing it. You don't actually have to wear that over here. The only times I found where I have to wear it is when I go to like an official government building or something. But otherwise I just wear it around my neck, so I have it with me in case I'm in a situation, or if I feel uncomfortable and I feel like I should put it on, then I will. But I think it should be fine. Yeah, so I'm just heading down to the lobby now to meet up with one of the ladies from the office who's going to walk me over, because I'm not particularly great at getting around that office. I've only been there a couple of times, and I don't want to bump into Perry by mistake and ruin the surprise. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to I don't think I'll film the surprise party, just because there'll be other people there, and you know, privacy and stuff like that. But I just want to let you guys know, and I will hopefully check in with you guys a bit later. All right. Alright, so I'm back in the hotel room now. I'm out of the abaya, just in my regular clothes. Yeah, so lunch went really well. Perry was nicely surprised. It was really lovely to meet all his co-workers, even though it's like a couple of days before he finishes his work. It was just really nice to see everybody and get to meet people. It was really quite funny. I had one lady who is also one of the board members. I believe she is member of the family, like the company he works for is a family company, Saudi family company, and she came up to me, had a rather, it wasn't like stern or angry, but she was like more like confusion, because as Perry's always told me, she knows all the women who work at the company, and she came up to me, started speaking to me in Arabic, and turns out she thought I was a new employee or something, and she was confused as to why she didn't know who I was. So I'm just stood there going, I'm sorry, I don't understand you. I'm like, I'm Perry's wife, and then she was like, oh, okay, I had no idea, and blah blah blah. So that was all fine. She's very lovely, and Perry's told me some really nice things about her. It was just just a funny moment, really. And then yeah, it was really nice. We had lunch, and there was like a whole range of food and stuff, and I'll probably will have already put up. I took some photos and stuff while I was there. I didn't take any video, like I mentioned before, but I took some photos, so I'll probably pop them in either before I start this segment or afterwards. And yeah, it was really nice. I got a bunch of flowers, which was really sweet. They didn't have to give me anything, but they gave Perry a couple of presents, and they gave me a bunch of flowers, which was very nice of them. And yeah, it was just nice to finally get to meet some of the people that he works with, because I've never met any of his colleagues. It just never worked out that way. But yeah, nope, so I'm back in the room now, a little bit hot and sweaty. We had to walk from the office back to the hotel, and it is so hot outside. I don't actually know what the temperature is, let me check on my phone, but it's really, really hot. Even walking just 5 minutes outside in the sunshine is pretty hot. But yeah, no, I'm back here now. I'll probably be here till about 5:30, till Perry finishes work, whenever that happens to be, and then we will go home, which will be nice if my phone would update and tell me what the temperature is. Ah, there we go, 45 degrees centigrade. That's pretty hot. I don't know if you can see that. It is boiling. That's roughly 115 Fahrenheit. Yeah, you don't really want to be spending too much time outside in that. Right, so I think I'm going to leave it at that now. I feel like I've been babbling for a while, and yeah, so I guess I'll be back with you on the regular podcast. Anyway, so that was how that went. It went really well, actually. It worked out pretty well. He was nice and surprised. He was suitably embarrassed, as everyone should be at a good surprise party. And it was really nice. It was really nice to finally get to meet his co-workers, and everyone was really lovely, and it was just really nice. It was quite funny because Perry is not the hugest fan of surprise parties and surprises in general and stuff like that. At least not in that sort of way, not in the way that draws attention to him. He doesn't like being centre of attention. So it was quite funny, and it reminded me of this one time when we went out for dinner for his birthday one year, and we went to this Mexican restaurant, and it's technically classed as fine dining, like it was proper Mexican food, not sort of Tex-Mex. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's very different to actual proper Mexican food. And it was a very sort of really nice restaurant. We'd been there once before and we really liked it, so Perry was like craving to go back there. So I arranged to go there for his birthday, and I booked the restaurant and everything quite a bit in advance. So as we're walking to the restaurant, because it was quite close to where we lived at the time, and we were walking there, and he sort of turned back to me and he was like, "You didn't tell them it's my birthday, did you?" I was like, "No." And at the time I was sort of going through my head, I was like, did I or didn't I tell them it was his birthday? And he was like, "Yeah, because I don't really want them to make a fuss, and I don't like it when they make a scene and all this and that." I'm like, "No, it's fine." And I'm like, even if I did, I don't think they would. They're like quite a classy restaurant, like they wouldn't do the whole singing happy birthday thing, I don't think. It doesn't seem like the kind of place that would do that. So I thought I was okay. And anyway, so we got there and we had our dinner and it was all lovely. And then it came time for dessert, and we'd asked for the dessert menu, but they were really, they weren't bringing it. And then Perry went to the toilet and he came back, and as he sat down, all the waiters had gotten together, they'd come over, they had like the maracas going and they were singing happy birthday, and they came over with like this flan cake thing with candles in it, and they stuck this giant sombrero on Perry's head. And oh my god, I was just like, I was dying in my seat. I felt so guilty. I was just like, oh my god, what have I done? I've just like done the exact thing he doesn't want. Was to make a scene. But honestly, I think it wasn't as bad as it seemed, for a number of reasons. One, because we were one of only 2 tables in the restaurant at the time. We generally eat dinner quite early compared to Middle Eastern standards. So we tend to have dinner sometime between 6 and 7 in the evening, generally. Whereas most Middle Eastern people don't even consider going out for dinner until after 8 o'clock. So the restaurant was quite empty, which was a benefit. I think there was only one other table there besides us. So level of embarrassment was significantly reduced by that. But I think also my reaction and how bad I felt about it was more than enough for Perry to not feel too like embarrassed. He was like, that was more than enough punishment, the look on your face. So that was a bit of a disaster. I learned from that incident, but I was totally not expecting that restaurant to do anything like that. I didn't think that would be the sort of thing that they would do. But yeah, but like I said, we had a great time in Saudi. It was really nice to finally get to meet all of his co-workers. A couple of them came up to me and were like, "What did you say to him to make him want to leave?" I'm like, "I swear I didn't say anything. He came to that decision all on his own." But yeah, they were all really nice, and it was just nice to see that he was that appreciated. And finally, just moving on to a quick weekend review. The weather has seriously ramped up this week. It has been insane. It is around 45 degrees centigrade every day, which is approximately 115 Fahrenheit, I believe. And humidity is through the roof. It is ridiculous. Every time I step outside, my sunglasses steam up, and I just feel all clammy. It's just not nice. So like I mentioned earlier, I got a manicure and pedicure yesterday evening, and for me it's not a very relaxing experience. The manicure is fine, like that's quite relaxing, but the pedicure is not a relaxing experience for me at all. My feet are incredibly ticklish, so I'm always on edge when someone's, and I don't really like other people touching my feet. But I'm wearing open toe sandals for the wedding on Saturday. My sister-in-law's wedding is this Saturday, so I really wanted to have get my toenails looking nice, because they don't otherwise. And yeah, and I went with blue because I have two outfit options for the wedding. One is a sort of blue dress, and the other one is an orange dress. And I know, you know, blue goes quite nicely with orange, so I thought that would be a good colour for both. And I don't really like orange for fingernails. I just feel like that wouldn't look really nice on me. And I didn't like any of the oranges they had anyway, so I went with blue. It's a bit brighter than I probably normally would go for. But I've never really done blue nail polish before, so it's kind of one of those things that it's just going to take some time to grow on me. Hey, Hugo? Seriously? Are you just going to sit in front of the camera now? You're staring at me. Head bump. So yeah, so it wasn't the most pleasant experience, and it's probably why I don't get a manicure and pedicure done very often. Hey, if you're going to sit in front of the camera, at least look at the camera. People want to see your pretty face. Nope. Okay. I was chatting to my sister-in-law, and I was joking with her, saying that I've been having nightmares the last few days that I forget to pack her shawl for her wedding shawl. I was just like, I keep having like nightmares about it. And she was like, yeah, I think you'd probably relish the challenge though, to like knit one up like in less than 24 hours. I'm like, yes, but the problem would be finding the yarn. I don't have the yarn for it. I can't do that again, at least not in the right colour. Which she thought was hilarious. But I've really packed it, and actually her wedding shawl's going in my hand luggage just in case. I'm not running the risk of my main luggage going missing. I'm like, I don't care, my outfit can go missing, whatever, I'll sort something out, but I can't lose that shawl. And oh jeez, I've got fluff everywhere now. Hey, thank you for that, Hugo. The last thing I wanted to mention, which is something that probably everyone's already aware of, and a lot of people I know are already playing it, is Pokemon Go. So I haven't downloaded it on my phone. I actually refuse to download it on my phone, but Perry has it on his, and we play it together at the weekends, which has actually been quite nice. I was very skeptical at first. I was not particularly happy about the whole thing initially, but we were driving to the mall, and he handed me his phone, and he was like, can you see if you can catch some Pokemon on our way to the mall? And by the end of it, I was just like, ah, really. So I'm like, what have you made me do? What have you turned me into? And he keeps joking, because today's his last day at work, and he keeps joking that he's quitting work to follow his dream of becoming a full-time Pokemon trainer. Don't even get me started on that one. But anyway, so we've been playing around, and like I say, we've been playing it at the mall and in the car as we're driving around places, because frankly, as I mentioned earlier, it is way too hot to walk around outside. It is just too hot, and there aren't enough Pokemon things in our area to make it like worth walking around. There's not really much in our area, and they're more concentrated around the malls and stuff. Hugo, yeah, you gonna say hi to the camera, or are you just gonna look at me? There's more stuff around the malls and things anyway. Oh, stop it, you're moving the box around. You guys are balanced on a box, and like I said, Hugo keeps wanting to eat it, so he's playing with it. No, that's the camera strap, Hugo. You cannot go after the camera strap. Anyway, so I think that pretty much sums it up for this week. I have a few little kitty video clips that I probably will have inserted throughout this video for you. And if not, they will come at the end if I forgot. But yeah, this is the last time you're going to see the boys until the end of August now. And they're not going to be in the podcast for a few weeks. And on that note, I'm not entirely sure what the schedule's going to be like over the next couple of weeks. There might be some weeks where the podcast goes up late, or I might have a different type of podcast rather than my usual sort of format. I'm going to try and do more sort of vlog style podcasts or episodes or stuff, whilst I'm away as well, and so hopefully there'll be regular content going up. I'm just not entirely sure of how often my regular podcast formats are going to happen, but we will see how it goes. I'll sort of play it by ear and see what works for us. Okay, you want to say goodbye? Everyone's going to miss you. I love seeing you every week. Okay, so bye bye. Thanks for watching. Take care and have a lovely week.